Okay, so here we are on, I think this was the sixth video.
Yeah, sixth standard.
That we've looked at, standard 6, yeah. So the first question is about making appropriate accommodations to assessments for students with disabilities and English language learners. So assessments can be formative or summative, and obviously there wasn't a summative for this lesson, but what you have done is at every group that I looked at, somebody who has been around English longer and is pretty good with English was coupled with a student who is newer, like our G. Sewells there. So they are never left without somebody that they can go to, or they're never left without somebody that is nearby or in that group that speaks the same language. So
I actually have both those groups. Like, there's someone stronger in English, and then there's two people that speak the same mother tongue.
Yes.
Because they don't always know the same thing. Like, so, like, I always make sure, like, I have that. And when Hundo came to the class up from the second, I put him at a table where he had 2 Korean speakers.
Okay.
In case he needed, like, clarified stuff.
Yes, and that's an EAL strategy, definitely. So, you know, I gave outstanding for that. Just because your situation doesn't really fit probably the way that they want it, but I can tell.
Yeah.
Are you doing what we expect to help our EAL learners, or our kids that are still a little bit new at accessing English at a high level? So for using multiple assessments appropriately to gauge student learning, the types of assessments that you're doing are formative, and there's many different ways that you do them. Let me see if I can get to where I actually wrote about that. So I did 2 of these today, going through there, and I don't want to mix the 2 up.
Oh, there it is.
So where did I go? Right. Oh, duh. Okay. Uh-oh, what did I do? Well, this will gobble up and waste somebody's time. Okay, there it is. Okay, so I talked about the grouping, and then I talked about the way that you regularly check for understanding formatively. There are a lot of different ways. You're really good eye contact with them. You have, even sometimes in your lessons, you have the kids are checking formatively and checking each other's understandings.
Yeah, yes.
And I think that's a really good thing to have. And this is such a good class and such a good example of kids who work really well together. They understand all of your expectations, your routines are set up in there, and it just works really well. And when they're doing that, they receive, you know, all of the students receive timely feedback, the way you have it set up. And you're checking understanding throughout formatively, verbally in whole class teaching time, and then in the groups, you're hopping around, and then the kids are giving feedback to each other, and you have those expectations explained before they go into their activity. And I think those are all really effective ways. I mean, it's evident in the videos that.
Yeah, this video at the end, that was even more with, like, showing how I sit down with individual students. Like,
yes, that was good to see.
Like boom, like I'll have a lesson or 2 set up where I give the kid, like, I'm less bopping around to tables because they they don't need checked in on.
Yeah.
So then I take one at a time up to my desk, and I'm like, okay, we got 5 minutes or 4 minutes, like, here's the feedback about this or that assignment, or, like, and the one you saw was, like, using that rubric already. He was trying to figure out, like, what he should do next.
Yeah, and I thought that was really helpful for Andy. He was the student for that, and he had, I think, 3 ideas, and you guys had a discussion, and he still had ownership of which way he was going to go, and he got, I thought, really good feedback on that. And I think you could kind of see the gears churning, and I wasn't sure that he had chosen. I think it was one of the last 2 that he was going to choose, but he was provided the opportunity to consider what he needed to do and how it would fit properly, and I found that really good. Let's see, related to the rubric and the upcoming project. Okay, that's the time when you, and one of the things I liked is you talked about some of the pitfalls in rubrics sometimes, and how they don't exactly fit everything every time. And you talked about objectivity versus subjectivity. You actually use those words, and those are good things for, I think, grade 10s to hear.
Yeah,
in
well.
there. I didn't hear about words like that when I was going to school. So the vocabulary that you're using. And I also saw you referring in the second video today, but even in the first one, you are referring to what is on the wall sometimes. Like you used illusion in one of them. And I see you referring to things that you've left up on the wall, and you're going back to the information. So but that was very effective as well. The thing that I have that is a question. I don't know if you've already read this.
Is this the first one? I think yeah.
Yeah, it's the first one. And do you want to speak about the summative assessment thing? Like they're asking for it in here in the criterion, and I'm like,
right.
Well,
yeah.
I don't see that.
This is because a little bit they use lesson and unit a little loose.
Okay.
In this, there's no way you would see a summative assessment in this, except that I've introduced them to the summative assessment in this lesson.
Yeah.
Right. Like so, in one sense, they're not being summatively assessed.
Yeah,
but the unit is about, or not the unit, the lesson is about them understanding like how they're going to even be graded.
Right.
And so, I was introducing the summative assessment in this lesson because one, the rubric asks for summative assessments, but like it's obvious you can't do it all in one lesson. Right. Well, yeah, everything in this one's really, everyone in this one, you've seen it, like it's just like boom, 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 like they follow. And I know it's taken a long time, but when I spend a long time in this particular one at the beginning of the year, I can blow through other units much faster. There's no oh, you've done this activity, you do this one, they've done this, so it's all the groundwork's there for later. I can I don't have to worry about like the mechanics of the stuff that they're doing. So, and it's taken longer than I would normally spend, but I think that this group really is like they're taking it, like they're going to own it in this summative assessment. Like they're going to make it something like could be personal, like and like move through things, or it could still be stereotypes. Like it's tough to write stories. I don't expect them to be like great storytellers, right? But it'll be interesting. It'll be good. Like,
well, I think it's relevant subject matter, and I think the kids are bought into it, and the way it's that you've introduced them to new vocabulary and new types of thinking and stereotypes, and they've got to relate to it. I think they're really bought into it. It's a good group for this lesson. Yeah. So my biggest thing was I was thinking about maybe after they had read the book, maybe that's a good time to kind of assess and see where they are, and then you'd have indicators as to, oh, well, this student obviously didn't get chapter 8 through 10 or something like that. That's the only suggestion I
No, yeah, I agree with you. I should have like comprehension check-in questions.
Maybe that.
It could just be something on Google Classroom. Like answer these students 3 questions. It's I have them all written actually.
Oh, okay.
Like for every chapter, I have a series of check-in questions, but I haven't been so concerned right now about the plot of the book.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I'm realizing like, okay, like they've now read 2/3 of it, so they haven't finished it yet.
Oh, okay.
Technically, I would say 75% of the class has finished the book. Okay. Some of them have reread it.
Once or twice.
Yeah, it's really easy to reread, right? So like once you get it down, like, and so that's interesting too. Like they don't really know the end result yet, but they're planning all this stuff at the same time. And they're going to do this, and they're trying to figure out some things. Yeah. And the book throws a like cliffhanger at you, like totally at the end. You haven't read it?
No, I haven't read it. No.
All right.
Well, that's one of the things. Like, this was a really hard one for me, and that's the only one that I didn't give excelling or whatever the highest is for this rubric, was just because they asked for a summative assessment, and after I've spoken with you and I understand where you're going from beginning to end in this entire unit, I'm like, I can see why he hasn't. Because he's building so many things, and that's okay.
They also have three different summative assessments. They gotta write the story and illustrate the story. They have to then make a presentation, an oral presentation, where they compare their story to the book that we read, and then they have to write an essay.
Okay, see, I didn't
Like
remember hearing about the second.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
oral
so
presentation.
the oral. So they're doing all of this is just like them preparing. Like they have the whole book in front of them, notes,
Right.
class feedback, like done all this, and now
Yeah.
they have to like use all that stuff. And now I spend my time not worrying about like what they know or this or that. I'm now working on like the skills of like what can you do? Why are you hesitant? Like
Yeah.
pushing them through like the whole process of
Yeah.
like finishing the thing in the end.
Yeah. I like it. Like every time I watch it, I can see, I understand what the end goal is. I think it's been a good experience for the kids. Very good one.
So,
That's it.